Hey, what's up, everybody? Mogollon Monster here, and welcome to WTF Live. It is Tuesday night. I'm so glad you guys are here. Bunch of people in chat already. That's awesome. I'm glad to see you guys. We got a good show lined up. I got some surprises for you. I originally we had Ryan Tremblay lined up, and well, that didn't work, but that's all good. But I do have another guest that I was going to have them both on. You guys know him. I love his narrations and his storytelling. I'm going to bring on Old Bear from Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot. I just got to get the right button. Old Bear, welcome, man. Welcome to WTF.
Glad to be here.
It's great. I'm glad to have you. So we've talked a little bit, and you've had some interesting experiences that I want to hear about. By trade, you're a trucker, and we were just talking off air about sitting in the trucker's room and the driver's room, and people hear you mention Bigfoot, and then they grab you later on. So I want to start off with that because I want to hear this. Before I forget, because it was pretty interesting. Yeah, just go ahead and finish what we were talking about, and these guys will figure it out. Well, we guys, I'll explain. Actually, you explain. This is your story.
Well, I'm an over the road trucker pretty much. Usually I take loads that last 4 or 5 days, 3 or 4 days sometimes, and I go to different states. And what happens is at night after driving for 11 hours, you got to stop somewhere and sleep because it's mandated. It's federal regulation.
Sure.
So I'll stop in a truck stop and go in, grab a shower, grab something to eat, and then I'll go over and watch a little TV with the other truckers, especially if it's if it's like a Saturday and watching college football or watching pro football. I don't watch much of it anymore, but I'll go in and sit down and start talking to other guys because they always want to talk anyway. Sure. And they don't have nobody to talk to while you're out on the road because everybody's by themselves usually. Very few people actually have teams. And I'll go in and sit down and start talking about whatever's on TV or how their day went, and about cars cutting us off and stuff like that. And usually about 15, 20 minutes before I'm ready to leave, I'll mention Bigfoot, or I'll say, anybody heard anything about a Bigfoot or a dog man or something of that nature? And you'll get looks. I mean, You'll get looks of like, you're nuts. What are you talking about something that ignorant for? And you kind of get, after a while, I'm kind of a people person. I can talk to people. Don't bother me.
I'm the same way. Obviously.
And, I got it from my dad. He's always been a route salesman, and he calls it the gift of gab. And I got it from my dad. And you kind of look around the room whenever you say something like that, and there's always one guy looking at you with a very puzzled, excited look on his face. And you're like, oh, here we go. I'll get up and I'll go, well, we'll see you guys later. Y'all be careful. Don't let Sasquatch get you. And I'll walk out the door. I'll start towards the front door to go get my tractor to take a rest, take a nap. And they'll catch me as soon as I walk out the door, as long as there's not 10 or 12 people standing there. They'll catch me and they'll come up behind me and go, hey, yeah, what you need? You mentioned Bigfoot. Why did you mention Bigfoot? Well, I've seen them, and I like to hear people's stories about seeing either a Bigfoot or a dog man or some kind of cryptid. And they're like, let me tell you this. And then an hour later, I always carry a notebook in with me in my bag, and I'm sitting there on the wall or I'm standing there and I'm taking notes the whole time. And I put them in where I can understand and remember, the
Sure.
big points, and then some of the little points too in between the big points. And you get a story from the person. And once they tell you their story, you can pretty well tell if they're pulling your leg,
Sure.
or you can tell if they're very sincere about it. And I've probably got when I was out on the road in the past 2 years, I've probably got 80 to 100 different stories.
Wow.
With drivers.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But there's a lot of Bigfoot out there too. So
True. So let's see what's going on in chat real quick. Chris Jarvis, still crazy Chris. I saw Chris Van Zylen in there. Where's my son? There he is somewhere. What's up, buddy? How's the baby doing? Donna Stokes, BLB, Argo, Ben, Bomber, Smoking Joe. I'm glad everybody's here. I'm sure going to miss them. Just not going to do a whole roll call. I just want to throw some names out there. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. Put them in caps. Don't be afraid. Look who I'm talking to. Telling these guys, don't be afraid.
Don't worry, I don't bite. I'm too old to be doing that anymore.
So, what was your first Bigfoot encounter? Like, how did that go down?
I was 16 years old. I was deer hunting on the last day of deer season here in West Virginia, and this Bigfoot walks out at about 20 feet. I'm sitting there. I've been there for probably half an hour, and it walks out at 20 feet, and I'm like, "That's not a whitetail buck." And I'm looking across the sights of a 30-30 rifle at this point, figuring on a whitetail deer to walk out. And it was no deer. It walks out on 2 feet. It's between 7 and 8 foot tall. A reddish brown hair color, a little bit of black mixed into it. And at 20 feet, it looked at me and it started growling at me. And it took a half a step and then took another full step. And I pulled the hammer back and was at the point of it was either going to be it or me. And I was hoping it was going to be it. But it heard the click and it looked a couple different ways to try to figure out how to get out of there. It finally went the way back that it came and got up there about 200 yards away from me. And at this point, I heard it stop running. And I stood up to leave, and it screamed at me. And from 200 yards away, it shook my insides.
Wow.
And then I did my best imitation of an Olympic walk to get back to where my dad was at. And told him we needed to go. And we come home and started on the way home. And I told him what happened. He said, "Those things ain't real." I said, "Dad, if they're not real, then why did I see one at 20 feet? And this thing screamed at me." He said, "I wondered what that noise was." I said, "That's what it was." And I was upset. I was crying, 16 years old, see something like that.
Yeah, that's traumatic as hell.
Yeah, it didn't scare me right then because in that moment I knew that it was too close for my own good. It would have been fine if it had been a couple hundred yards away or,
Sure.
300 yards away. But 20 feet is a little bit too close to be something that size.
That's intense. Yeah, I haven't, like I mentioned earlier, I haven't had an experience. And it might sound foolish, but I am open to one or two, whatever.
That is a foolish idea.
I don't know, man. I just look at it in a sense of if I were to run into something or see something in the woods, I'd know what it is. Because it's already part of my paradigm now.
Right.
It's not going to be like a shock to the system, like Kerry Arnold, for instance, where he immediately like realized what he was seeing and his whole world changed like that. It's already part of my world. I've just never seen one.
Well, the biggest thing, and I've talked to a lot of different people, like I was telling you a minute ago, a lot of different truckers, and I've got reports from, just ordinary, everyday people, beauticians and guys that are own their own barbershop and stuff like that, and they see these things and it freezes them up. And I even talked to an investigator once that had never ever seen one, but he was looking for them. And he knew about them. He knew what they would look like, their size and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw one that was about 9 foot tall. And he had to leave and go home and change his pants and underwear because it affected him. But he knew that they were there. Being in the presence of one of these things is not. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody to go out and get a thrill from it. It's not going to be a good thrill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm. Then I have to go in the woods. It's just who I am. I'm a fisherman, outdoorsman. I don't hunt anymore. I gave that up years ago. But yeah, I mean, and I'm not. My head is on a swivel when I go in the woods, though.
Because there is more than just a Bigfoot out there nowadays. And I used to think that was the only thing in the woods that you had to worry about. And because I bear hunt, I've been as close to arm length of a big black bear, and
yeah, so have I.
That don't bother me, but I still get a little bit of fear in me when I go out, and if I see one and it's a surprise to me, it puts a little fear in me. I've seen a few of them.
And you've had how many encounters with Bigfoot?
8.
Damn. That's a lot. What is there any like of those 8 besides like the first one being the most I would think would be the most traumatic? Maybe it wasn't, but does any of those 8 like stand out more than others, or is it basically the first one? I mean, it's not just, is it all the same visual or just different experiences, different types of
Well, the ones
what I mean? 8, that's a lot of times. 8 times.
Yeah. Well, the second time I saw him was probably, it was close to 20 years after the first one, and in that experience, I was deer hunting in Ohio. I was living in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, and a buddy of mine talked me into taking him deer hunting with me, and then I got over to his house that morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, "Hey, my son's going." I'm like, "Oh boy!" But I knew that where I wanted to go because there's quite a few deer in there, and there's some pretty nice bucks in there. So I had bow hunted in there, I'd squirrel hunted, turkey hunted, everything in there in that one area, and it was public ground, and it backed up against a lot of private farmers, and I'd hunted in it a bunch of different times. Never had any trouble. Never heard anything. Never saw anything. Never found a tree break or tree bow or a footprint or anything of that nature. But I had never been in there that late in the year. And he wanted to go, and so we went together. And, I took my truck, and we got out there, and I sent him and his boy over into this one holler where I had seen a really nice buck hanging around in, and told him about the deer and told him where to go in there. And him and his boy went down in there. Well, I went across the road. And I was down there maybe a couple hours, and I heard one of them shoot. So, being a host, you have to go and help out. I mean, that's just what you do.
Sure.
And I got down in there with probably within 100 yards of it. I heard another shot. Well, I picked up my pace going to him, and I got over to him, and he's kind of shook up, and his boy is sitting there against a tree holding his shotgun, and the deer is halfway. They're opening the deer up to take the entrails out, and it's halfway done, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And he said, "Dude, there was something that walked out on 2 feet, and it was hair." I went, "Oh no." I said, "I know what you're talking about." I said, "What? How big was it?" And he's like, "It had to be every bit of 8 feet." And I said, "Well, let's get the deer gutted and let's get out of here."
How old was the boy?
Huh?
How old was the boy?
He's about 14.
Okay.
And it was his first deer, and he was pretty psyched about it, and Dad was showing him how to open the deer up.
Field dress, yeah.
And this thing just stepped out from behind a big oak tree and some brush, and he shot in the ground. He didn't shoot at the Bigfoot, but he shot in the ground in front of him. And it turned and went back into the brush and walked away. But we started dragging the deer up the hill and got probably within 50 yards of the road. And the truck was just on the opposite side of the road, parked. And I turned around and just had to look behind me and caught a glimpse of something running between a couple of trees. And I told my buddy, I said, "Y'all take the deer on up to the truck, go on." Tossed him the keys and said, "Go on." And I turned around, and this thing was dodging between trees, trying to come up towards us. And then it stopped behind a big oak. It was probably 4 foot thick. Well, it was well hidden behind that oak tree. And then it leaned out like this to look at me. And when it leaned out, I knew what it was. And it's probably 60, 70 feet at this time. And I just threw the shotgun up and clicked the safety off and shot the tree that it was standing behind. Well, it took off again. And I went up there and helped them load the truck up and told them to take it down and take the boy down there and get him something to drink. And I gave him, I gave my buddy, $10, told him to spend on the boy and get pictures, get a camera and take pictures of him. Because his first deer. And I kind of stayed there, and I grabbed about 3 boxes, about 15 more rounds of slugs that I had in the truck. And I went on hunting, and I shot another deer, and they were gone probably 45 minutes. I shot a deer, gutted it, and brought it up to the road and was sitting there waiting. And when he pulled up, I said, "Flip the truck around. We're going to throw it in. We're going to get out of here." And as soon as we tossed the deer in the back, there was one that screamed in the holler that I was in, that I just shot the deer in. And then on the other side of the road where we just come out of with his deer, that one screamed too. And I started pulling my clothes off and put my gun away and got in the truck. And I'd already tagged the deer, got in the truck and turned the truck around. And when I turned around, I looked up in the rearview mirror, and both of them were standing out on the edge of the road, each edge of the road, and they were starting our way. So I got out of there as fast as I could.
Time to
that
go.
Scared me the most.
That's a crazy story. I mean, but the fact that like you dealt with them and then went back to hunting, and
Well, it's I had looked for him for a long time and never really saw any more. And plus, it was I scared that one off and didn't think anything else about it. Once they run off, most of the time they don't come back. But when they started screaming, they were talking to each other about something. And then when they come to the road, I knew it was time to. And I never went back there. And I lived there in Columbus for another 3 years. Never went back there. But I did run into one of the farmers that owned the property that abutted up to the public land, and he said, nobody ever hunts there. And I said, why not? He looked at me real funny and said, don't you know? And I said, no, I don't know. What are you talking about? I was playing dumb. I wanted to hear his.
Sure.
And he looked at me and said, because of harassment. I was like, well, it'd been nice if somebody would have told me. And he's like, I thought somebody did. No, nobody told me about a grassman coming in there in the late part of the year. He's like, well, we usually tell everybody that goes in there, you can hunt bow hunt, but when it gets to after Thanksgiving, don't go in there because they move in there because of the deer population.
Sure. And you hear other stories about that where like when someone's hunting a season that they haven't hunted, or like you said, you were never in there that late in the season, so you never experienced it. They knew you were there before that, so they didn't stick around until you know. But I've heard that before.
Well, there was always 5 or 6 trucks in a mile and a half stretch of road, and usually if I got there late, I'd have to go to the far end of where the public land ended and hunt back towards the entrance where you could go in, and every truck had 2 or 3 guys, and there was quite a few hunters in it. But after bow season, whenever when the shotgun season came in, people didn't hunt in there. And that was the first time I was in there, and it was the last day of the shotgun season. Well, I never went back either.
I was going to say first and last.
That was the first time I went in there to shotgun hunt, and that was the last time I ever went in there.
That's crazy. So yeah, I was thinking about what you said earlier about how when you meet truckers at the truck stops and how you take notes, and it's your own language. But I always wondered how the hell you told your stories, because you don't read them, like you don't narrate, like you read them, you tell them like somebody told them to you. It's almost like passing down an oral tradition. I really dig the way you do your stories and tell your stories. It's different.
If you sit down and you write the whole thing out, it sounds, to me, it sounds like, the way I look at it and the way I try to tell my, the stories that I get from other people is I try to tell the viewers like they're my friends.
Sure.
And I'm telling them something that, could have happened to me or happened to one of our buddies. And that's the way I look at it. I mean, it's
and that's the way it comes off. And it's awesome. That's what I think people really like about it. Let me just check chat. I haven't been paying attention to chat. I've been enthralled with you. So Bomber, now there's 73. So 74. See, she's saying people in chat. Let's see. If I missed any questions, guys, I apologize. Do put them in caps and ask again, because I don't see any. So Duke, what are you doing, man? I sent you something. I should have gotten it. So get back to me. Thought he'd be here by now. He's playing moderator.
Oh.
But he's not a moderator. He's just playing one.
Oh.
I know I sent something out. I'm going to send it again. I'm just going to send some now real quick. So Donna Stokes is asking, what's your scariest encounter? And I think that's the one you just told, wasn't it?
Well, that would be the scariest. The first sighting of Bigfoot would probably be the second one. But I did get charged once.
Really?
Yeah.
Starting to rethink whether or not I really want to see one of these things. Yeah, maybe from a car, from like,
Yeah,
200
that's
yards
the
away.
best way to see it. That way you're going down the road. You look over and it's standing there looking at you and just watching you drive by. That's the best way.
Yeah, that would definitely be the ideal scenario. I'm just sending out a link real quick. All right. Oh, sure. While I'm doing all that, he's already, never mind. Thanks. Hey guys, so I'm going to bring someone on that I had on a couple weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago. Excellent guest. You guys know him. Please give a big sky howdy, hint, hint, to World Bigfoot Radio's own Duke Sullivan. Duke, welcome aboard. And he's not there. That's friggin' awesome. We'll get back to Duke. I couldn't see it behind the banner. Sharon Guy has a question for you, Bear. Mark Moog asked Gold Bear if he will tell us about the couple that came up missing a couple months back.
Well, the couple that came up missing a couple months ago, I really can't say a whole lot about it because the federal government got involved in it.
Howdy, Duke.
And the people that I know that contacted me about it, in order to protect their jobs, all I can say about it is they took care of the situation. The federal government took care of it, and there is no more issues on that gentleman's farm.
Well, I hope that answered your question, Sharon. Duke, how are you, man? Great to see you again. You having issues, I think. Let's try it. The plot thickens. This could be interesting. Excuse me. So when Duke comes back, we'll continue the Sasquatch stories, I'm sure. But you also told me that you had some paranormal experiences.
Yeah. I was 24, 25 years old, and I was newly married, and my wife at that time, I've been married a few times, but my wife at that time, her grandmother had passed a few months before I met her, and her grandmother's house was out there. And one night we were out to her mom and dad's after we got married, and we saw a blue light go through her grandmother's house, like someone was walking through the house. And my wife was scared. Her sister was scared about it, and their mother was scared. And her dad, that was her dad's mother, and then passed. And he said, "I'm not going down there." He said, "I know who it is, and I'm not going down there." I said, what are y'all scared about? So I went down there and I went through the back door and started walking through the house. And this woman, older woman, in her late 60s, early 70s, walked across the living room, stopped at where the doorway was, turned and looked at me, and then just turned and walked right on through the rest of the house, right out through the wall.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that's a little bit different for me to have, something like that to happen.
Well, yeah, to see an apparition. I mean, I haven't seen the apparition, but I've seen them do things, and manipulate things and we're witnesses, so it was pretty cool, but
Yeah.
which kind of, if I believe in this, I might as well believe in Bigfoot. If I believe in paranormal, I'd be stupid, and it wouldn't be fair if I didn't believe in that. All right, let me bring Duke back on. I think he's got his stuff together.
Hey guys,
what's happening, Duke? How you doing?
I had to move everything in the other room closer to where the Wi-Fi is set up.
The internet, yeah.
Signal. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily, for some reason, I get kick-ass signal, and I'm in like a separate part of the house, like it's a build-on room to the house, and I get great signal, so I'm thrilled about that.
Nice.
So what's new?
Not a whole lot. I just got a new show coming out, premiering on YouTube tomorrow about the expedition with Paranormal Portal up in Kelowna.
Okay.
And so I finally got that video all put together, and then I got another one pending for our last trip up to Hidden Valley, which was a couple of weeks ago now. And then we've got some more people showing up here still in September to try and go up to the same place again. And this time,
The Hidden Valley or Kelowna?
Hidden Valley. We got some people that are coming from other states for this one, so it should be interesting. I have a little bit bigger team to run around there with.
Awesome. Yeah, so next week I can officially say now that next week I get my driver's license back. But yeah, once I do and I get mobile, I'm gonna start traveling. So I'll probably come up there and because my dad's got some friends, has a friend in Kalispell, so it's an excuse to get up there. By the way, Dad, we're gonna make a pit stop.
Beautiful cattle smell, Montana.
Right on. So, Duke, have you ever met Old Bear?
Nope. Hey, Bear.
How you doing, Duke?
Duke Bear. Yeah. So, have you ever listened to any of Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you have. Okay, you have.
Go. Yeah.
Well,
I don't miss much. If they've been on for more than a month or two, I generally find them.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna look at chat real quick, see if there's any questions. Once I get going here, I like tend to ignore chat.
Suppose I should be watching too, huh?
Oh, you have that ability. Yeah, I definitely want to thank you for the last time you were on, Duke. That was a good show. Kind of a pivotal point for me, and subs and views. It was just kind of outrageous. So thanks for that.
I was glad to help, man. It was a fun show. I got to talk about a bunch of different stuff, so that's always fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad that everybody's willing to come on and Smoking Joe. Strangeland. We got a good crowd tonight. 75 people right now in chat. Thank you guys for showing up and coming and putting up with me. So, we put up with you all the time. We're used to that.
Yeah. Good thing too.
So when do you think you're getting back to work, Bear?
I hope here in the next few weeks.
Okay. And it's because of just the situation, or the eye, that's why it's keeping you out. That's right.
Yeah, I can drive a pickup full of travel trailer, whatever I want to do, but I just can't get in a commercial vehicle. That was what I enjoy doing a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what's the plan, or what's the future for your show? Just going to keep plugging along.
Okay. Well, the plan for my show is to keep bringing as many truthful, situations people have been in. Their accounts of Bigfoot, and if somebody needs help, we try to get them help, and if it's fairly close by in a couple states, I'll go down and help them if I can.
You do go out and assist people?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I've done it a lot, but I still do it.
Fantastic. I didn't realize that. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the reason I got charged in North Carolina by a female. I was down there helping a lady, finding evidence of Bigfoot being around her home, and we did an interview with her at night on a Saturday night. Did a live show. It was the first live show I ever did. It wasn't real good, but people seemed to like it. And that afternoon, I went back behind her house looking for some more evidence, and found a few footprints and found some tree breaks, and found tree bows. And I got too close to a pretty dense cover area, and started back towards the lady's house. A female Bigfoot came out and charged me within probably 50 feet. All forward.
Now, Duke, you've been charged before?
Hell no.
No, that would keep me out of the woods, I think. Then up to that point, I'd be good. Once I got charged, I'd be like, oh, okay, you exist. Have a nice day.
Well, it's close to. I broke out in a cold sweat, sweating bullets at this point, and I spoke to her in normal English and told her that, hey, sorry, but if you come closer, we're going to have problems. And all I had in my hand was a machete, and I guess she understood, because you could tell she growled at me a couple times, and then she just kind of turned herself around and went back into the thick stuff. And I went back, got closer to the house, and went back through the bamboo that the lady had behind her house. And that was into that. So, that is a pretty tense situation for a few seconds.
When you do find, well, here you actually found the creature, but when you do find evidence, and what do you do, for the woman, like put lights up or cameras, or, I mean, you hear all these stories that, booger lights will keep them away, and
well, lights don't always work.
Okay.
This particular lady had a dusted on light. She had she rents the home, and the owner had put motion sensor lights on the backside of the house. Well, all they do is take a stick and stay out of the motion sensor area and push the motion sensor up to where it won't go off.
You won't pick up. Okay.
They figure it out pretty quick, after a few times. If they're intent on coming and looking in your windows and smacking your house, they'll figure out a way to defeat that light.
They do the same thing with game cameras too. I've talked to several researchers that have had that, where they'll get these random pictures and they're like, Duke, there's nothing in this picture. And I go, look for the flying object. and
Yeah.
it's always there. It's a pine cone, it's a rock.
A rock.
They're throwing something in front of the camera to set it off, and then they time how long it takes to reset, and they know how much time they have to go in front of the damn thing where you don't get a picture of them.
Right.
That's crazy.
Or they'll take and I actually helped a guy put out some cameras around his home, and he put out 6 cameras. Out of those 6 cameras, 4 of them got squashed.
Last time I had William Lunsford on, he was sharing some interesting pictures. He's down in Texarkana, and he doesn't bother to strap his game cams on very tight because they like to tear them off the tree and fling them. He's got some interesting pictures of like fingers and thumbs and stuff from where it's got the game cam in its hand and it's releasing it, and that thing's going to fly 35, 40 feet.
So, old Bear Hilton wants to know, can you elaborate on it's taken care of at all?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. There were a total of 8 Genoskwa-type Bigfoot that they found in that area. They are no longer breathing.
Oh, that sums it up.
Yeah, shed no tears for type 4 is good riddance.
Yeah. Yeah, they're man eaters. They'll eat Bigfoot and people.
Oh, really?
They're just meat eaters. They'll eat anything. One of their own clan members dies, they eat them too. They're indiscriminate.
So, and I would explain some of the stories I've heard where there were a bunch of, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but one of them came in injured and they ripped it apart. Like the other members just ripped it apart and ate it.
Don't get the notion that all the regular Bigfoot are safe to be around, because there are clans of Bigfoot that are eaters. That if they get the opportunity to get a drop on a human and eat them, they'll do it.
Sure,
but they're pretty rare. That's not that common. They usually stay well away from civilization, because if they started doing that too often, guys with helicopters would show up, and that would reduce their troop a lot. So
this is a common question. BDP 1976 Ben. Why keep it from the public? And that's one of the most common questions asked. Anybody? I'll throw in my opinion. What's that?
I said, Duke, you want to take this one? I mean, I got an opinion on it, but I'd like to hear Duke's.
That's all everybody's got, is just an opinion on it. A lot of people think it has to do with conservation, then we wouldn't be able to cut down the forest, and that'd ruin logging. We haven't had shit for logging for years anyway, until Trump changed the tariff situation with Canada. So now we can compete with them. We were getting all our timber from Canada because they're subsidized. There wasn't shit for logging going on anyway. So that doesn't hold up. And then there's the, the owl excuse. Well, we'll just have to put everything up on it, which ties into the same thing. And there's all these other different reasons for it. And I don't think any of it holds water. There's too much pressure being put on the situation. Too much disinformation is being spread. People threatened, people being killed. They definitely don't want this coming out. And, I think it has to do with obviously it has to do with the people that are in charge, which isn't even really the federal government. It's a deep state globalist running everything. And they do the same thing in all the other countries too. They're suppressing it all over, everywhere. It destroys their narrative. Why do you think they're starting to do soft disclosure on aliens? Think about it. They're going to come out and they're going to say, oh yeah, okay, we've been in touch with aliens. Aliens are real. And, huge spoiler alert. There's no God. The aliens created all of you. And that's why we're all getting set up for this big scientific lie. And most of the quote unquote alien ships are actually our own technology. And I think most of the aliens.
No, it's not our technology.
Aliens. Oh yeah, it's shit that we got from the Germans in World War II, and we've been working on ever since. Think about this for a minute. At the beginning of World War II, we were flying around in crappy prop planes that do 200-300 miles an hour. By the end of World War II, 5 years later, we've got jet fighters. Yeah, Me-262 Swallow that can go like 500-600 miles an hour. Okay. So in that 5 years, we jumped from prop planes to jet fighters. We had intercontinental ballistic missiles, that's V2s, And all of that technology, the V2 technology, was subsequently used for the Apollo mission to get us to the moon, blah, blah, blah. Point here being, what happened since then? Why are we still flying around in jet airplanes? We couldn't develop anything better than that in the over 70 years since World War II. Really? And you expect me to believe that? We didn't have any computers back then. We sure as hell got plenty of that stuff now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
nobody can figure out a propulsion system better than a jet engine. Seriously? You guys going to sit back and buy that bullshit? Because I don't. Some of the Black Ops projects have been leaked so much that it's quite obvious that they aren't alien craft. For instance, the giant black triangles they see. They even have model kits of them. They're TR-3B. It's a classified project, and we're supposed to pretend it doesn't exist, and we've been flying them around since the 1980s. That's 40 fucking years, buddy.
It's a long time. Wow.
So, yeah, in order to keep pushing their agenda of science, 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 and no such thing as paranormal or any of that sort of thing, the aliens created us. That's why I believe it. Because if we start going, okay, how about these other things running around here that aren't aliens that look a lot like us? What are they? Where did they come from? What's the deal with it? These guys seem to have paranormal powers, and they don't have any kind of, scientifical doohickeys to make anything happen. They can just do it without that stuff. So all of a sudden, 2 cans of worms opened up. First of all, there's adjacent hominids. We're told they're all extinct. There's still another one here, probably more than one. Second thing is that opens a can of worms on giants. Well, Bigfoot's kind of like giants, right? Were they giants? Well, no, they were giants too. Well, what about the giants then? That's what they're talking about in the Bible. Wait a minute now. Oh no, that brings all the Bible people come out of the woodwork. Yeah, we told you, giants, you idiots. We've been talking about it forever. You don't want to pay any attention to it. Plenty of evidence for it. Nobody wants to pay attention to it. Sure. That's where I think it's going. I think it's all just the same globalist satanic cabal that's running the rest of the world. It's not on their agenda for Bigfoot to come out. It is on their agenda to push the whole alien deception, though.
So Strangeland wants to know, do you think the missing 411 cases are attributed to Sasquatch being a main reason?
I did a show with a guest about 3-4 years ago where we talked about prime suspects for missing 411 cases. And each of us had 3 or 4 that were ahead of Bigfoot on the list, although Bigfoot's on the list. There's other things that are going on there, I think. There's other things in the woods besides Bigfoot that are hostile and will take humans. And some of them are just mischievous and they'll take humans. I got somebody that has been on my show that knows the guy that rescued this little kid off of an ice floe up in Alaska. And at the time, the kid was so traumatized, you couldn't even talk to him and explain how he got on an ice floe miles out of town in Alaska. And he got him back to town. The kid finally explained, take him to his grandma's house, which apparently was near that, dropped him off. Well, the next day, he found out that this kid had disappeared 3 days previously. It just vanished right in town, on the outside of it, basically. And then after he had come back about 12 hours later, he started actually talking to his grandma. And he basically told her the little people kidnapped him. They took him into their underground city and they interrogated him for like 2 days and then decided he wasn't useful for whatever they wanted him for. And they did something, and then he was on an ice floe in the river.
It's a crazy story.
So there's other things besides Bigfoot taking people. This is on the local news up in Alaska, too.
Oh, it was on the local news, huh?
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yep.
How old was this kid?
Oh, he was little. He was like 3-4 years old, 5 years old, somewhere in that age.
So he's not at an age where he's really going to make shit up.
No, he was pretty freaked out, pretty bad. Yeah. Plus of the conditions up there, it's like the kid's wandering around outside of town for like 2 days and 2 nights by himself and survives it, kind of unlikely, and then ends up on an ice floe in the middle of a river. How the hell did he get there?
Sure.
And he didn't know how he got there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's about like that kid that was down there in North Carolina that disappeared for 2 days in a monsoon type rains, and it was cold, and And then on the third day, they find this kid in a briar bush that they had searched multiple times, and he wasn't there before 2 days and all that rain. And his first comment to his parents was, "Well, a bear took care of him. Bear ain't gonna take care of no kid. He'd have turned that kid into a meal in a heartbeat."
Sure.
And it was probably a female Bigfoot that done it.
Yeah.
That picked him up, found him in the woods, picked him up, took him to a cave or a little shelter that they built, and kept him in there and kept him warm and kept him safe. And then whenever, all the rain quit, he appears in a briar bush. Because the
Guys, you guys got to talk about amongst yourself for a minute. I didn't plug this in. I have to go get my extension cord. So you guys just do what you got to do. I'll be right back.
Do that. He forgets to do that every time, old bear, so don't feel bad. But anyway, I totally agree with you. I did some research on that too. And as I recall, temperatures were in the mid-30s and raining the whole time that kid was out there. And he would have frozen to death in those conditions, no doubt about it. And then the other thing is that the magic bear theory aside, which is ludicrous, hilarious, and stupid, and I can't imagine, it boggles my mind that people bought that. Anybody that had done any research or found out the county where the kid disappeared hasn't actually had a bear sighting in almost 30 years. There aren't any bears there, magical or otherwise, to protect the kid.
Yeah, whenever they did that story, and the thing that got me the most was that pretty much told me that this kid was telling, he told his parents first, and then, the sheriffs come in and they wanted to question him about what had happened, trying to find a reason to either put somebody in jail or whatever. It didn't make any difference. But they made this kid go have a psychiatric evaluation. 5-year-old kid don't need a psychiatric evaluation.
Sorry, guys, I gotta get this plugged in before
they needed to do some brainwashing on the kid and convince him that it was a magic bear. Yeah. He hadn't seen a Bigfoot.
Right.
It was a magic bear.
Yeah, because
humans instead of eating them for some reason.
Right. Probably a female that had lost her young. Something happened to the young that could have got a disease and died from something. If he just had, what we call postpartum depression, and she'd been watching the kid for a while, and he's just a little kid, and he gets outside the yard and playing hide and seek, and the Bigfoot walks up and picks him up and carries him off. And
I've heard other examples of that actually happening. More, probably 4 or 5 that I've heard of personal people telling me about these situations. And the scary ones are where they just don't seem to really care about the kid at all. They'll take him off to be a playmate with one of their squatchlets, and then when they get bored with him, they just abandon him in the woods again. Other ones, I almost wonder if some other cryptid takes the kid initially, and then the Bigfoot don't want to get blamed for it, so they bring the kid back to where humans can find them. Because the last thing the Sasquatch want is hundreds of armed humans wandering around their favorite area. It means they got to leave for a while. Screw that. Just bring the kid back where the humans can find him. They won't come searching.
Right. I mean, there's, after looking around for these things and chasing them around state of West Virginia and Ohio and Kentucky and North Carolina and other states, for 30 years, they're not dumb. They think on the same level that we do. They can reason everything.
All right. Crave Dog, what are the characteristics of a type 4 and where are they most prevalent?
North America.
Narrows it down so much.
Good answer.
Well,
Eastern mountain ranges. Yeah, Eastern mountain ranges going up into Canada. It's the type 4S, and then north of there and around that area is where the Algonquin Confederation was, and they call them Wendigo up there. And if you go further up north through central Canada and up into Alaska, they're up in those areas too. I think they basically they make their living being predators because they live in these Arctic-like conditions. They really don't have that much in the way of plants to eat, so they're pretty much adapted just being exclusively carnivorous, which explains their lousy temperament and
Sure.
and some other oddities about how they behave. But you get the old legends of the Janoskwa, the stone giant, and they were having quite the war with the natives in the area that they lived in. I think we mentioned it last time that they would like rub themselves against pitch and tar on trees and stuff
and roll it in the rocks.
Their hair, and then roll in the rocks and
Mm-hmm.
repeat process a couple times, and you got good applique armor that'll stop a stone arrowhead tip. And at some point, the natives were trading with these new white guys that had these thunder sticks, and guess what? Those thunder sticks will shoot through that armor. And at that point, it may have became less attractive for them to go through all of that trouble to make that applique armor when it wasn't going to stop a bullet anyway.
Huh.
But that's when you stop hearing about the stone giants. At the same time, the white man showed up in the area with rifles. All of a sudden, there's no more stone giants. Well, they're still there. They're just not putting applique armor on anymore. And I think they reduced the local population a lot. Judging from what the reports were earlier on to how few reports you hear of them now, I think we should be giving the natives a round of applause, because apparently they did a great job of wiping out a ton of them without writing anything down about it or telling us about it.
That's
if it kind of brings to mind a story about an Obi, where they were coming down and raiding the Indian village and taking women and children and taking them back up there. And then when the cavalry went in there, the Indian, there was a part of the cavalry at that time was, Native Indian. And they went in there and that one ripped the captain's head off, and they found them three Bigfoot standing on a huge Bigfoot standing on a pile of bones, human bones. And those things are all over the U.S. They're not real prevalent when you get out west, but like you said, you get in the mountains, and a lot of people say, well, they're not below a certain part in the Appalachians. We got them here in West Virginia.
Yeah.
There are not very many of them. You don't hear about them, but they move around a lot.
I think they're one of the prime suspects for disappearances on the Appalachian Trail, to be honest with you.
Yes, they are. Very much so.
Yeah, I had one of my guests went for a little hike down the Appalachian Trail for, God, what was it, like a month and a half? He had a Desert Eagle 50 with him, so he wasn't too concerned about it.
A hand cannon.
He was packing, yeah. He thought he ran into a dog man the one time. He wasn't sure what the hell it was. It was around his calf. It really creeped him out. And then the other thing that he saw was a young female Bigfoot followed him for about 3 hours. He almost coaxed her out into the open, but she wasn't ready to come out and shake hands, apparently. But he thought that was pretty neat.
So yeah, anybody in chat, you guys got questions, please put them in caps. Oops. I just minimized my screen. So Smokin' Joe asks, how many different types are there? 4, 5, 10?
Nobody knows. We can get a scientific survey because scientists won't touch this subject. They don't even, want to believe that there's a regular Bigfoot, unless you're in some other countries where they've already designated them as endangered species,
sure,
like way back in the frickin' 60s,
67, 66,
65. Yeah, if you're in this country, you're a knuckle dragging retard, and you won't touch the subject. So that's just, well, look at where the scientists get their paychecks from. These are the people that are pushing the agenda. So there you go. So I have, zero respect for them. They're just a bunch of frickin' go along to get along retards as far as I'm concerned. Real scientists stick their neck out, take chances, and look into the subject. They don't just sit back in the hallowed halls of academia, smelling their own farts and reading books all day long.
Well, but to give a little bit of an answer from a dumb old hillbilly, You know, I kind of decided that there was about 5 different types. You know, people say there's 7 types, some say there's, but to me, there's 5 that have distinctive looks, and 3 of those types usually won't harm you, but the other 2 types, they will harm you. They will actively hunt, and that's where I get the number, the 5 at.
What do you think, Duke? Somewhere in that area?
I go more conservative and say 4 because I think some of them are just sub varieties.
All right.
But yeah, there's the type 1, your classic patty type Bigfoot that's got a caveman's face but covered with hair. And then you've got your type 2s that look more like an ape. They've got the really wide mouth and the really huge distance between the nose and the upper lip and that sort of thing going on. Your type 3s I class is the Gugwi, as named by the Micmac Confederation, and those are what they call bear man in central Canada. And they have claws on their fingertips and they have a short snout and they're very, they're carnivorous. And the type 4s, of course, are the Wendigo Genosqua type, which are, I think, completely carnivorous. So I class 3s, and I put it in order of number. The higher the number goes, the more dangerous they are. That's the way my scale works.
Right on. So BDP 1976 is asking, do they look like any of the Todd standing ones?
I had a researcher up in Alaska
Sorry.
that they wanted to, they was throwing a lot of shade on Todd, saying, what the hell is this weird little Muppet looking thing? And then they came down here and visited their brother's research area in Idaho and actually saw 2 of them that looked just like that. And they've got this weird little puff of hair around their face. Looks like a snorkel hood from an old Air Force bomber jacket.
Yeah.
And yeah, there really are some that look like that. And then she completely changed her mind and went, well, maybe that is legit. Because all the ones that I seen up, in Alaska don't look anything like that. And these ones down here actually do. So my personal opinion on Todd is some of his stuff is legit and some of it is pig.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that discussion again tonight. Let's see. Questions. Overbuilt. What's your thoughts on the werewolf? Anybody? Or Dogman? Or
You want to get that, Bear? There's more of those things down there where you live.
Don't remind me. Yeah, there are dogmen. You get more dogmen sightings out west. You get some here in the Appalachians, but you get more of the type that they consider to be a werewolf. They seem to be bigger, more. The body is more human type, but they still have the dog type legs. Their back legs are dog type, but they're bigger. Seem to be a lot stronger, more aggressive. If it's a werewolf, I would hope I could find a way out there, and maybe if I leave a certain type of trail, it'll fall and hit its head and not chase me anymore. I don't want nothing to do with that type of a dog. No.
right on. What else? Hilton. Hey, Duke, can you please tell us what you really think?
No, that's top secret.
See that?
I'll tell you one thing. All of the dogman looking things people are running into are like supernatural or natural. They're certain powers have decided that they would make useful soldiers.
I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Kana. What's your most aggressive encounters you have personally had? I think Old Bear already told us earlier. Anything that's scared the shit out of you, Duke? or
That's
aggressive.
my first
You know,
encounter when that Type 4 was giving me the grin at 40 feet away. Yeah.
yeah.
That
It
was
seems
enough to
that
make me flee as fast as
the
possible.
first encounter is always the most traumatic, which makes sense.
Yeah. Especially
Uh,
if, like 3 miles in the middle of freaking nowhere and got no gun, you're 10 years old. This thing's got teeth like a freaking great white shark, and you're going, "What the crap is that thing?" No, that is not a regular Bigfoot.
Ben wants to know, what is the orb connection?
I don't know. Is that like the Rainbow Connection or something? Orb connection.
I guess he wants to know what's the connection between orbs and
There's
Bigfoot.
orbs around areas where there's paranormal things going on. There tends to be orbs around there, and especially holds true of areas with portals and stuff in them. That's usually where they find orbs in areas that have high amounts of weirdness going on.
Usually, if you start seeing orbs around and you tend to see Bigfoot, they end up being the more aggressive type Bigfoot. Is what I've ran into.
Maybe I'll have to keep that in mind. If I ever see any orbs, I'll have to start worrying there's aggressive Bigfoot around. Because I honestly never see any of them out here. Never, ever. I don't.
I've only seen it happen once, Duke, and it was at a time when I was trying to help a family, and they told me 2 or 3 different times they seen orbs, and then they would see these Bigfoot. And the only time that I ever saw it was at 3 o'clock in the morning, and seen a couple of little orbs coming through the trees, and then these things popped out on full moon lit night, and they were the shark teeth Bigfoot, the ones I don't like to see.
Yeah, you guys are discouraging me more and more.
That's a Type 4. Yeah. Well, the good news, Mog, is there isn't very many of those things around. That's the good news. The bad news is that I think they, as Kuhnbo even mentioned here recently, the Type 3s do compete with the Type 1s and 2s and tend to chase them out of areas. And Blaine Tyler mentioned that some of the Bigfoot areas he used to go into up in Canada now, he doesn't want to go into because he's running into those friggin' Type 3s in there. And they don't fade off into the distance and try and be shy and hide from you like the regular Bigfoot do. They friggin' follow you around.
Isaiah wants to know, Duke, have you ever investigated or been to Skinwalker Ranch?
Nope, haven't been down that far southwest.
Any intentions?
Yeah, I have friends down there I'd like to visit at some point.
Right on.
I'd be going over to the Caveman Ranch before I went to the Skinwalker Ranch. And visit Brenda. She's not that far away. She's on the other side of the mesa.
Right on.
Talking about Brenda Harris from New Mexico Shadow Seekers and Randy Caveman Yazzie. Cat's down that way. She's in Arizona.
Who is?
Cat.
Yeah, there's a lot of places here in Arizona that just to me seem to be prime habitat.
Arizona's just creepy. Period. Take Bigfoot away from the equation, it's still creepy. There's weird shit going on all over Arizona.
Yeah, there is. I was thinking about something somebody told me one day. He's half Navajo, and he was, we were talking about Bigfoot and whatever, and he said that, I don't know if they were kids or some people had gone into some caves up on the res and saw giant spiders. And I was thinking about that. If they're in a cave and if it's dark, I don't know what their lighting situation, flashlights, I don't know exactly what they saw, but you hear all these stories about Bigfoot, doing that spider walk, the belly crawl. And I'm just wondering if maybe that's what they saw. Then they thought it was, because you've heard them described as spiders when they do that crawl. Because just giant spiders just don't jive with me.
Well, some of the stuff they can do physically, lends itself to them being mistaken for something else. Like a lot of people don't realize they can run on all fours. A lot of the bigger ones don't do it, but the smaller and middle-sized ones do. And you see something on all fours take off like that, you go, what is that, a bear? You know, it's running through the trees, it's running away from you, it's running along a hillside. It must be a bear. It's on all fours. I don't know what the hell it is. There's somebody up in Canada got some actually decent video of what looks like a bear out in a field. I think it looks like a big wheat field or something. And you're watching it, and all of a sudden it stands up, and it's like, holy bleep, that's not a bear. You know? And I would have been willing to swear up and down it was a bear until it stood up, and then it was like, well, that's not a bear.
Yeah. A lot of people you hear the story of, well, the stump was sitting there and then it stood up. It wasn't a stump. You know, that would be weird.
Try and pretend to be a stump on me. I think we talked about that the last time I was on. I was going back to my camp, and I was probably 70, 80 feet away from my tent, and I came through this little tree line, and the wind was blowing the right direction, making just enough noise and not allowing him to smell my scent. So at the last minute, he must have realized, oh crap, human right there. And he didn't have anywhere else to go. So he just kind of lumped down on his fat ass and tried to pretend he was a stump, which fooled me initially. And I had just got done watching a video on pareidolia, and I went, this is cool. I should take a video of the stump. It looks like a Bigfoot sitting there. This would be a great example of pareidolia, right? So I go to reach for my camera, and then I look up at the stump, and now the stump is glaring at me. And I'm going, well, you know what? Stumps can't change their expression and start glaring at you. So clearly, this is not a stump. And the Bigfoot, I don't know if it was like mind speaking to me or something. And like, you know, I stopped my hand on my camera and didn't pull the camera out of the holster. It was on my belt, my little belt attachment. And I'm looking at him out of the left side of my face. And I'm like, yeah, that stump's glaring at me. And it was like as if his voice was saying, that's right, I'm a stump. Keep walking.
Nothing to see here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going now and I'll film this stump tomorrow. And I just walked over and got in the tent and hoped that he didn't decide to be nasty and aggressive, because he was now between me and the road where I could escape to. But as it turned out, he just wandered off, did whatever. The next day I went back to take a look, and of course the stump wasn't there. But there was a sapling that was about 4 inches in diameter that he had squashed with his butt, and it was laying at a weird angle. So you could always see where the hell he sat down, because he actually squashed this little tree in his haste to become a stump all of a sudden.
All right, guys, you got to keep those questions coming in chat. I know you've got to have more. Hey, Bill. Didn't get a chance to say hi.
Coming up for everybody tomorrow, like I said, I got a premiere show coming out. It's from the Coloma expedition.
Was that the link you sent me?
Yep. And one of the things that we include in there is not only all the tracks and pictures and all that kind of stuff, but when I was up there a few weeks previous to that with another previous guest on my show, Sunny, who lives up in Alaska, she was down there visiting. I took her for an afternoon stroll up in Coloma, and she got an incredible picture with her cell phone of what appears to be a cloaked being standing like right next to her. You can see the light bending around this thing. And if Moggs had a chance to watch the show, he knows what I'm talking about already.
Yeah, I blew through it real quick. I didn't get to that part. I was looking for it, but I was just busy. But yeah, I started watching it. Looks good. You know, the presentation. It's gorgeous up there. I definitely want to get up there.
Yeah, it's creepy too. There's like cloaked beings that zap you and make you keel over and stuff. It's lots of fun. And don't forget, we got the video of the Bigfoot eye shine too. These guys are walking up this trail it's almost midnight. They're trying to make it up to the Standing Stones at midnight and do the ghost box thing up there. And as they're walking up the trail, there's this Bigfoot standing about 10 feet off the trail on the left-hand side watching them. And they picked up the eye shine on their camera. They didn't even know it was standing there. So that's on there too. And also the track that Michael found about a mile away from town, he found a big X structure. And when he went up to check that out, he found 2 really old tracks, but clear enough to see, you know, what they are. And they're both, I didn't have his tape measure with them, but they had to be about 22 inches, judging by the size of his foot next to the track. They're just humongous.
So Mark Robbins has a question. I didn't see Mark. I was going to send him. Actually, I should send him the link and bring him on. What makes solid copper so effective against like giants, for example? You've spoken of this in the past. I'm curious as to what were your sources on this?
Insider and folklore. If you try and put some copper in an open cut one, sometimes see what happens. You will get infected.
You know, it's funny because then they, like back in the old days, they used to put silver, like a silver coin, in milk.
Yeah, silver actually will kill bacterial things.
Yeah,
that does work.
But it's interesting, between silver and copper.
Yeah. Now copper will poison you, silver will cure you. There's the difference. And copper has some nice personality traits as far as being a ballistic weapon too.
So Isaac is asking, Duke, have you heard anything new about Glag? Ever think about going to visit?
The last I heard of Glag, he's out in the deep woods, and if he's ever up in this area, I'd love to meet him. But I don't think he's anywhere around here right now. Hopefully, he will be at some point in the future. I got another guest coming on that had an encounter with Glag that hasn't recorded yet. So,
right on.
One more Glag story yet to go.
Awesome. Well, Bear, do you know that story, the Glag story?
No, I don't. I heard about it, but I never got into the detail.
Yeah, you should definitely check it out. It's a really good encounter, good story. It's a tearjerker.
I'm in the process of rebooting it right now. I got like the first 3 or 4 episodes redone, and I got to do the rest of them now. But he spent 5 years with Bigfoot as pretty much his best friend. It was a juvenile, and he was he had older brothers that beat him up all the time, so he liked to spend time in the woods with his Bigfoot friend instead of that.
Yeah, it's definitely something you should check out. Joey Hayes, any thoughts on the various different types of eye glow reports?
Has to do with the light source that you're throwing on them and the angle that they're being seen from. Also, some of them have eye glow. So, and if you see the red eye glow, go away. It's time to leave.
Run.
Run
away.
Vacate
the premises. Yeah, even the happy ones, if their eyes turn red. No, time to leave. They're unhappy about something.
Yeah.
Any research tours in the near future? Anyone? Well, not tour, but I might do something soon. I'm gonna go up, hit the rim once I get my license. I'm I'm mobile. I'm gone.
Well, my team's going to be up in Hidden Valley in about 2 weeks, and we're hoping that Team Nebraska can make it over here, and that would be Rich Soul from Knox Gigas and Barry Webster and part of his team from Res Squatching. So it'll be fun to have those guys over here.
Nice. Yeah, I was hoping to get. I tried to hurry things up with the DMV. I went down on Friday, and because everything's done, all my paperwork is done, everything's paid for. It's just I have to wait for an appointment, so I don't go until the 10th. But I went on Friday just to try to speed things up, and it was like no. So I was hoping next week to get up to the rim, but it's going to have to wait another week.
Hey, if I can cut in for a second, there was a question in chat about the Gugwe in Maine. And the name Gugwe comes from the Micmac Confederation, which is the Penobscot and Passamaquoddy tribes.
That's Maine.
And so, yeah, that's in that area. We're talking Upper East Coast. That's where the name for the Gugwe came from. So, yeah, of course they're around there. Hopefully not anymore, but they sure were at one point.
Now, there's some thick forest in Maine. I've fished up there. I have family up there.
Yeah. It's pretty much what do they do in Maine? Logging and fishing.
Yeah.
Tell your family up in Maine to stay away from the American-Canadian border. That's where there still are a few.
Yeah, I think they're in southern Maine, Old Town area. It was funny because last time I was up there, I brought a mountain bike and a fishing rod. I didn't use the mountain bike. They had a house right on the Penobscot River. So, amazing smallmouth fishing. Any recent mountain giant sightings?
Mountain giant sightings are rare as hen's teeth. They don't use they happen very rarely. And then maybe you get 5 people that see one, only one of them will come forward and talk about it. And then I have to somehow hear the account. I'll decide to find me. Good luck. So they just come along randomly. You know, in the last 5 years, I've had 3 possible mountain giant encounters here in Montana. And that was like kind of more than I was expecting anyway.
And what actually constitutes a mountain giant size?
Yeah, they're not Bigfoot. They're built different. Yeah. They have like different tech level. They actually use, you know, Stone Age tools. They have moccasins. They'll wear, you know, hide clothing and stuff like that. Make campfires. Have secret dugouts they hide in. All that kind of crap. Eat humans. Yeah. So maybe the same thing that the Scandinavians deemed as mountain trolls. I've had a lot of discussions with Solveig Folkerheim over at Crypto Sweden on that subject, and she leans heavily toward that. The same thing, you know, because of the areas that they're supposedly seen over there. You're talking subarctic. Well, you know, okay, you go into Alaska, northern Canada, and some of these areas where something that's really similar is being seen, same kind of climate. And, you know, entirely possible if Bigfoot and anything else could have got over here, they could have got over here too.
That makes sense.
Assuming they didn't start here and go that direction. We don't freaking know that either.
Never thought of that.
You have, you know, stories about that stuff. There's in the folklore of the natives up in Alaska, they've got a cannibal ogress. And see if this rings any bells. She's got a backpack made out of like woven together pieces of wood. It's kind of crawling with bugs and icky stuff, and it's slimy. And if she finds any children that wander too far away from camp, she throws them in her big slimy backpack, and to be in there with all the bugs and stuff. And it's so slimy they can't climb out again. And after she collects up a few random children that have wandered too far from camp, then she goes back to her cave and eats them. And this is called the Matulik, the ogress of the tundra. Now, does this sound like vaguely familiar, like Basket Woman down in the Pacific Northwest, a couple thousand miles south of there? Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was Krampus.
And Krampus, too. There's another one. Yep. So, you know, if you start looking at some of these legends and stuff, you start finding out that they're kind of telling the same damn story, just with different names attached to it. They've also got a different name for 2 different hostile cryptid bipeds up there, the Tornit and the Tunijuk. Well, they're not the same thing. One of them's like some kind of carnivorous Bigfoot, and then the other one's probably a troll. And they, you know, of course, they have all the little people and stuff. I guess there's like 4 or 5 different kinds of little people up there, too. Like they're referred to as urchin rock. So, yeah. Well, Alaska's gigantic. It's the size of everything from the Rocky Mountains west to the Pacific, you know. And there's like there's 600,000 people in it. So imagine how desolate that is, and how many places there are for big weird things that we don't know about to still be living.
I never will know about.
Yeah. No, people just don't.
That's how remote that is. That's crazy remote. I mean, where you live is remote, but you know there are boundaries. Which up there, it's like never-ending boundaries.
Yeah, you know, you can easily, you know, oh, how far is it to civilization? Well, it's 500 miles that way to the next road.
Yeah.
Just walk 500 miles, you run into the road eventually if you keep going in the right direction.
Ray asks, any other strange cryptid reports? I heard of someone seeing a lion with a human face.
Creepy. That's what they used to call a manticore.
Was it a lion with a human face?
Yep.
I do remember that.
They eat humans. Manticores have a human-like face on them, but they're otherwise lion-like body. And they're supposed to be something that only comes out intermittently. Like they'll appear every so many years, and then I think it's like every 200 or 300 years or something like that. They're supposed to show up, and then in the past, we had apparently people that knew about these things and how to kill them that would get rid of them when they'd show up for their bicentennial infestation or whatever it is that they do. But I don't think there's a whole lot of manticore hunters running around nowadays. Hopefully, there's still somebody that knows something about them.
Probably not. You would hope.
Yeah. But they are supposed to have some interesting powers. They have apparently infrasound. And this was mentioned in the old legends going back that they could make a roar that would stun you. And, you know, back in those days, people didn't know about infrasound or that big predators could do that or anything. So how did they come up with this weird story? And, you know, it had the other power it had was just basically it could make itself invisible and then visible again. As far as I know, maybe it had other powers that I'm unaware of, but that's all I found out about. There's actually a channel called Night Terrors that did like a little 10-minute short piece on manticores. It's freaking excellent. Go check it out.
So somebody's asking, would you investigate the Black Forest in Germany? And what have you heard about it?
The Schwarzwald. I've heard it's crawling with dogmen, and it's not a good place to go to. And lots of people disappear in it every year still. Not a good place to go to. No, I wouldn't research it. Bigfoot Bob over in Germany, Bigfoot in Germany, he was doing research over there, and he was in contact with all the, believe it or not, there are Bigfoot researchers in Germany, quite a few of them in different regions, and they're all in contact with each other. And yeah, that was one of the areas that they pretty much all just stayed the hell out of there. Unless you were like suicidal bonsai dogman researcher, you stay out of the Black Forest.
Yeah, not many people come back out of that forest and go looking for it, go checking out things in it.
Now, but keep in mind that forest has always been a forest. They've never cut that down or anything. It's always been a forest.
Right.
So God knows what's out in that damn thing. And it's had that bad reputation for hundreds of years.
Oops. What did I just do? Sorry. Pushing buttons. Shouldn't push buttons. All right. I'm going to send one more link. We're going to go on for a little while longer, but I'm going to send out a link to someone in chat right now. He was one of my first guests, Mark Robbins. He's here in Arizona.
Hey, Ray, Otterman is the Kushtaka. And that's a supernatural monster that can change form. That isn't anything related to Bigfoot or anything like that.
The Otterman's supposed to be like an elemental, dude.
Yeah, they're associated with being around waterways and rivers and stuff, which, you know, could have something to do with their otter-like character. But apparently they can, according to the legends, they can hornswoggle you into becoming an otter man and joining them. Or they can also just kill and eat you. Kind of depends on what they feel like doing with the situation. But they're notorious for disguising. They can make themselves look like somebody else that you're traveling around with to lure you away from the group. And then they like to drown you. Because they can hold their breath a long time and you can't. And the water in Alaska tends to be really cold. So, yeah, that's pretty effective way.
There's that. Just trying to remember the last time I heard someone use the word hornswoggle.
What? Nobody outside of Montana says hornswoggle anymore? What are you guys, all a bunch of rubes or something? All right, I got to step out for a second. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
All right, man. So yeah, I'm glad you guys could meet. It's good to see. You know, like I said, I like meeting the people that I hang out with all the time. You know, I've been a mod for about a year. So I know what it's like to be in those chats. So it's kind of weird for me to be behind the camera now instead of, you know, I have a tendency to like get lost in chat sometimes. But you know, it's where you're going to get your questions, and you know, everybody has pretty decent questions. Digger Dog, have you reviewed the work of the late Mitch Waite on the Rim? No, you know what? I haven't had time to do that. I've heard of him. It's funny because I didn't know that anybody had the Mogollon monster, you know, monogram. Like Mitch passed, but I guess his son or somebody still owns Mogollonmonster.com. I was I wanted to buy that. I don't know who to get in touch with or anything, but no, I'm gonna do some research, Digger. I want to learn about this guy because a lot of people ask me about him. So yeah, good question. Yeah, it's funny. I think I shut the phone off and I apparently don't know what the hell I'm doing. There we go. Hilton, we'll throw this out there when Duke comes back. It's a good question. But we will come back to it. So what's do you get out much and do any investigations at all, Old Bear?
Well, we've kind of curtailed it because of my eye.
Okay.
The typical place that we go, they are somewhat aggressive. They will gladly throw rocks at you, not the little tiny pebbles, the ones that are 50-cent piece to silver dollar up to this. They will throw them at you. They throw temper tantrums if we don't pay attention to them.
Really?
Yeah, they get upset. They'll growl at you. They'll do about anything to get your attention, and they'll come in relatively close to you. You know, maybe 7,500 feet, and if it's a moonlit night, they'll make sure that you see them go across, you know, between trees and stuff like that. They'll cross the field that we're sitting at and stuff like that. But the last one I ever saw was, you know, had a full body picture of it. Was here recently out to where we do investigations on my buddy's place. And it was a 9-foot tall great one. It was a well kept. Like he had a couple of females always taking care of his hair and stuff like that all the time.
Right on. Mark, great to see you, man. How are you? I don't know that Mark can hear me. I'll have to post it in chat. Let's see.
You got Mark muted?
Nope.
Can you guys hear me?
There you go. Some sort of delay. You were there for a minute, buddy, and then you disappeared. But I did catch a little bit of an echo. So if you have your volume up if you're on YouTube or something, turn it down. But it seems to be there's a mic issue. You just check the settings at the bottom where it says cam mic. Make sure your mic is hooked up. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Oh, how about now?
There you go. Can hear you now.
Okay, I think is that good?
Yep.
How you guys doing? I'm with this very esteemed company. I'm honored.
Oh, I'm glad to have you, man. It's been a while. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So you told me you've been gearing up. You know, you're gonna go out and do some squatching soon.
Well, yeah, I got several, you know, things I'm interested in doing. You know, I'm going to start up a channel mostly for outdoor fishing, shooting sports, things like that, panning for gold. But of course, you know, I want to go out and do some scouting up the Mogollon. But then we've got to the east of me, we got Mount Graham, and that's always been a hotbed up at the pond up or the lake up there for Squatch activity. It's also one of the hot zones for the 411, up in that area. So, so I've been buying a lot of tech gear. I just bought a new GoPro. I bought a new camera. I've got my Nikon, and just all kinds of other stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, Mark had an experience. Well, your buddy had an experience when you were in the Navy. I don't know if you want to share that again.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Oh, yeah, I can do a recap of that. So I had a friend of mine. We were shooting buddies, and we went on a deer and elk hunt up in a little place called PL, Washington. So that's kind of west of Centralia, Chehalis. And we were on Warehouse Tree property. And again, I'll just kind of explain that I was in the Navy. I worked on an aircraft carrier. I've been working with naval jets for almost 13 years, so my hearing isn't always the best. I don't hear low-end sounds.
Okay. Wasn't me. I swear I didn't do it. I think he just dropped off. Hook him back. I had to turn my volume down.
Story now.
I know, right? There he is. A nice device not connected. He's trying to log back on. Yeah, Mark's a really nice guy. Plus, he's got an epic beard.
I tried to grow one like that, but my wife says no.
I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Very loud. I don't know
Sorry,
why.
my cat paid a visit and decided to walk across the keyboard. But so he started hearing something. He's laying on his side of the tent, and I'm about 6 feet from him, and he kept telling me, "You hear that?" And I hear thing, right? And what I would hear on occasion is we hear a little bit of the wind going through the trees and stuff like that in the grass, a little, but not a whole lot. It wasn't a windy night, but I wasn't hearing this stuff, and this went on for 30, 40 minutes. And, he was always, you hear that? And I'm like, no. And I thought, we're sailors, so we're not very gracious with each other. We give each other a lot of crap. And I thought the guy was just flaking out, and I told him something like, well, unzip the window in the tent, look out. And he's like, the hell with you. If I look out, it can look in, And so this went on the whole for probably, 40 minutes to an hour. And then and I'm just abbreviating this. And then it wasn't long after that. A couple of minutes before I ended this thing here, the tent was pretty dark. The only light we had coming in was from a fireplace outside of the tent, so you could see kind of glow inside. And, I hear this click, and he was in a mummy bag that had been zipped up to his face. And I kind of look over, and he's got this arm out with his Colt Delta Elite laying on his chest. And I thought, well, this is getting serious. He's, pulling his 10 millimeter out. And it wasn't but a half a minute after that, literally the whole side of the tent, it was literally like something took its hand and just drug it along from his body, head to foot. And you knew it wasn't the wind because it didn't shake the whole tent. It was just that part of the tent where he was laid up against. And he was out of that mummy bag in an instant, crow hopping in the middle of that tent, doing a 360. And, it took a couple minutes to calm down. And, he put the pistol in battery, and I was like, all right. I was scared to talk to him because I thought he would have just squeezed off rounds, And so we got up the next morning. I got out, walked around the tent. I went specifically on that side. And I looked for footprints, and I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. And we were on an embankment there, kind of a cul-de-sac in a logging clear-out area. And we were on dirt, and then behind us we had some grass, and then it went straight up the mountainside from there. And then in front of us we had a little gravel bar and a small creek running in front of our camp. And I didn't see any footprints out there. I didn't see any grass that had been laid down. And we kind of brushed this off for years as the night Pete almost shot the tent, but I was recently interviewed by Dustin from Crypto PTSD. And I talked to him a couple of times before I went on the show, but I said, not until I talked to my buddy. And so I called him, and this is probably 20 years after this happened, and I was like, Pete, what were you hearing outside the tent that night? And he says, I heard breathing. And I probably wouldn't have been able to hear that, with my level of hearing. I've lost like 10% of my hearing. And then I'm like, Pete, when the wind blew, and he was like, that wasn't no freaking wind. He goes, something reached out and touched me. And, it just kind of, it was a very odd night, but when you think about it, there's nothing that would have laid down on, at first I thought I heard one sound that I thought was odd, which sounded like metallic chimes way off in the distance. And that was the only time I heard anything out of the ordinary other than a little bit of wind moving, the grass. And I didn't hear anything run off. There was no foot stomps or anything when he jumped up. But it couldn't have been I thought maybe it would have been a dog. Somebody may have abandoned out there, but that animal would come up to the camp and whined or something like that to be with people. We would have had some indication. But I'm just thinking there was nothing that would have touched that tent that made it move just the way it did. It should have shook the whole tent, if it would have been the wind or I can't imagine any other animal doing anything similar to that. So, Dustin was pretty darn sure it was a Sasquatch. I was up in Washington for 8 out of the 12 years I spent in the Navy. We had something else happen up in another place in the area near Concrete, Washington. And, my wife and I were out in the woods and we just heard limb snaps all over the place. And at the time I thought there were loggers out there, but we didn't hear equipment sounds. And this was middle of the day. And it was just, just weird things. I didn't pay no mind to this kind of stuff back then. I mean, I always believed in Bigfoot, but I just, it's one of those things that you kind of didn't believe it would ever happen to you. And, but now, I've listened to Duke's channel. There's a dozen people that I listen to with regularity, and you don't have to be outdoors to learn a whole lot about, I can hear a story over and over, different stories, and you start to realize that this is, a fact for this situation or something like that, and, I just think what happened that night outside that tent wasn't, it was two-legged, but it wasn't, I don't think it was a bear or anything like that. So I believe we had an encounter out there.
Right
Mark,
on.
let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. You said you heard something.
Sure.
Hold on once. Just hold that thought. Mark, I'm hearing feedback. Do you have your YouTube on or anything, the volume on your YouTube, or is it all coming through your headphones? Just so we can eliminate the echo
I'm sorry.
away.
I've got, how's that?
Go ahead, Old Bear.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you, Mark, you said that you heard wind.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Hello?
We hear you.
Go, Old Bear.
We hear you, Mark. You're good. Go.
You guys hear me now?
Oh, headphones is just causing that. So I'm just going with the laptop mic.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, what I wanted to ask you, Mark, you said that you heard wind, moving through the trees and through the grass. Might that have been a Bigfoot walking in on you? Is the reason you heard what sounded like the wind going through the trees and through the grass?
That's possible, and it would have been. It wasn't a windy night, but I assume that what we heard was a breeze. Mm-hmm. Would be a better description. But that would make sense because it would almost be soft padded feet. Coming through. We had grass behind the tent that was probably 2.5, 3 foot high. So
yeah,
it would have been very quiet walking through there, even a pair of boots or something.
Yeah, I've heard them doing that before at the place we do investigation. When they walk through the field, it's got tall orchard grass in it, and you hear them walking through, and then if it's moonlit, you can see them, just before. But if it's a dark night, you can actually hear them walk across through that orchard grass. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's like the wind going through because it's just rubbing against the long hair on their legs.
Yeah. Yeah, that was back in 90, probably 91, 92 at the latest. That's a little while ago, trying to remember all that.
Yeah. Well, I know, but you said it sounded like a wind, and that's what kind of brought it into my head that, I've heard that sound too. And on a moonlit night, you associate the sound with the Bigfoot.
You're good, Mark? You disappeared for a second. Wasn't sure.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Nope, I'm here. Yeah, I hear you guys.
Awesome. Just going through chat real quick. If you guys have questions, again, put them in caps so I can see them. So, Mark, do you have any questions for anybody?
No, I asked that one about Duke. I remember him and Kat talking about the copper, and specifically lake mass. And, you Google that, and it's like, well, I can't get a truckload of that brought in from, like, where are they pulling out of? Michigan, Wisconsin, up in that area.
Yep.
But send me a dump truck full, I'll load my own. But
get some of the locals up there to go pillage one of the old abandoned mines the Phoenicians left up there. There's probably still plenty in there.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of funny because talking about, like the whole dogman thing, right? I remember Vic Cundiff, one of the things he said, you gotta have corn, water, a food source, and then Native American ruins, or graveyard. And Ryan Tremblay, I guess, Mog tried to have on. He didn't make it. He was telling me where there was a sighting right here in Tucson. And I'm like, son of a gun, that's like a quarter mile behind where I live. And I'm right on the edge of Tucson on the interstate.
Wow.
And I can look right down my street and there's a cornfield out there. University of Arizona's got an agriculture project. And literally right across the street from me, we've got a massive drainage wash system for water flow, when it's raining. And I'm thinking, I'm scared to go out in the dark, because you don't know what you're going to see looking down the street, right? And so, yeah, it's, Arizona's got some places.
Yeah, we do. We have some interesting stuff out here. So much Jake wants to know, and it's an interesting question. What effect did your favorite teacher have on your adult life? I know it's getting off subject, but it's an interesting question. Did anybody have a teacher that influenced them, like really, that changed their high school career or college career? Or, guess not.
I had a science teacher that I had like 5 times, but that was because I kept taking science classes, and he was one of the few teachers that was teaching them. That would be as close to influential teacher, I guess, as I had. He was pretty hilarious.
I think when I was young, the most influential person that influenced me the most, and you would think I'd say my father or something, but it was actually a tracker. His name was Tom Brown Jr. Back in '77, he had a story in Reader's Digest. And, in class, we were like 5th grade. We read the story, and then he actually came in to visit us. And at such a young age, it influenced me so much. I mean, throughout my life, hunting and fishing and just being in the woods, I learned a lot from that person, so that was my greatest influence, I think. Wasn't a teacher, but it was a teacher, just not in a traditional sense.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right. Well, thanks for the question, Jake. Let's see what else. This is so stupid. It's funny. Caesar Milan, not afraid of no dog, man.
You got to go do some training on that dog man Scotty Carpenter's got hanging around his place. And give it some milk bone biscuits or something, make it go away.
I don't see any more questions. What is this? What are y'all's favorite Bigfoot outlets currently? I'm not sure what that means.
What's the outlet?
Professor Orange Juice, you might have to elaborate a little more. Dell's asking, Mark, what's your channel? You haven't put one. Have you even named your channel yet?
What's your channel?
No, I haven't started. I haven't got it out there yet. I've been wanting to get busy on it, but Mog knows I had a family issue here. Actually since my father passed away from COVID, and so it's been a lot of busy stuff. Lawyers, power attorneys, all this kind of stuff, and so that's kind of set things back a lot.
Yeah, and prayers go out to you and your family. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mark, we'll have you in our prayers tonight.
Let's see.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it was a tough fight.
So, Mark, you definitely got to get up this way because we're not that far away. 3 hours away, and do some squatching, or I'll get down that way eventually. But it just seems silly to have people in the same state. In my opinion, if we're both into the same thing, we should go.
Right.
Check it out. I'm not seeing S5K Hilton's quite. Oh, hold on.
I have to agree with Moggs on that one. My right-hand man on my research team lives a friggin' 3-hour drive away from here. And when we go do research in the area, he shows up anyway. It doesn't matter.
So Hilton asks, who do you guys admire?
Yeah, we'll coordinate.
Right on. Who do you guys admire or respect the most in these subjects? Is there any researcher or anybody that really got you involved in this?
See, this is where you ask us in order so we don't all just sit here and not know which one's going to talk. Mog, you're the moderator.
All right. All there.
One of the guys I admire, he's not, a lot of people don't know him. His name's DDoS. He's the founder of the UDRP.
Never heard of him.
I talked to him quite a bit, and I like the guy. But
yeah, I'm going to be on DDoS's show next week. Interesting you brought him up.
The Baron.
The Baron. Yep, going to be on the Baron show again.
Right on.
Yeah, he is good.
Mark, how about you?
Mark.
Oh, probably first and foremost on my list was J.C. Johnson. I really love the content he put out, and him and I had emailed a couple times on some things, but he was very influential. Wes Germer, Duke, of course, Matt Squatch. You guys were the standard. And there's a lot of them that have come and gone, but you guys are still here, and I'm listening to you guys all the time. So,
thanks, brother.
Total fanboy.
Well, for my part,
if you guys were women, I'd be stalking you.
I have to say, for the person that I look up to in the Bigfoot community that's got, good information, has never steered me wrong, and that I always got along with really well, would be Jim Bear King from Bigfoot Outlaws. And then as far as like who do I admire the most in the Bigfoot community overall, I'd have to say Dr. Igor Burtsev, the head of the Department of Hominology, which is at the Department of Evolutionary Science in Moscow, Russia, who's just turned 80 and has been out in the field doing Bigfoot research since 1965. His first trek was out into the Caucasus Mountains with Marie, what the hell's her last name? She just turned like 100 years old like last spring. And we did a little birthday wish for her on the show. But she shows her sitting in her wheelchair and she's got a giant Bigfoot cast on her lap and big grin. And he's still going strong. He's still out in the field doing research, So since 1965, which is actually when Russia declared Bigfoot an endangered species, he's been out in the field doing research on the subject and turning out books on it and doing lectures and flying all over the damn world. Usually he's over here this time of the year, but thanks to the pandemic, he couldn't make it over this year. But hopefully he'll be here next summer. And, next time he makes it over, I'm going to try and coerce him into coming over here and doing some Rocky Mountain squatching with me.
Right on.
But that would be who I look up to. He's also the founder of International Hominology, which I'm I guess I'm the Montana manager for that group. I'm the main man in Montana for International Hominology of Forest People. So that's who I look up to. The Dr. Igor Burtsev.
Right on. I don't have any, well, as far as researchers go, I don't really know too many. I haven't gotten that far in this. I do appreciate like what Old Bear does, what Duke does, what all these other shows and creators do by bringing, these stories to everybody. I really appreciate that. Wes Germer, he was a big influence. I'm really into this, the storytelling part of it. I love hearing stories. I love telling stories. Let's see. Thought I saw a question. Well, Duke's not here at the moment. All right, guys. Well, let's see. Yeah, Wes is great. Big Rob. Well, guys, wait for Duke to come back. We are going to cut this short. It's been like 2 hours. My ass is flat as a pancake sitting on this wood bar stool. Last chance, guys. So if you guys want to put up some questions, now's the time. I don't know if Duke's coming back. We'll see. But yeah, you guys in chat, any more questions, now's the time because we are going to shut this down any minute. Sandy Clemens asks, with all the evidence already out there, what do you think it'll take for people to believe? Personally, I think the hard skeptics, you'll never get them to believe unless, Bigfoot walks up and shakes their hand. Even then, they'll say it's a guy in a costume.
Oh, yeah. Basically, the only way you're going to get everybody to believe is you're going to have to trap one, bring it into the middle of Times Square, and let everyone go up and touch it, and then let it rip somebody's head off.
On live TV. Yeah, that would do it. Nessie, what is with you and pants off? I did it once. First live show, I took my pants off, and she's been asking me to take them off ever since.
I'll leave that alone. I ain't touching that.
It's too funny. It's something that carried over Paranormal Portal that found me. Big Rob, when you're ready to go to the Grand Canyon, show up at my door and I'll take you, buddy. Moog, take me to the Grand Canyon. I'm ready. Right on. Let's see. Well, guys, I don't know that Duke is coming back, but it's getting late, and I'm gonna shut this down. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Old Bear, thank you for your time. Mark, great to see you again. We'll hook up, and if you guys want to hang out backstage, I'm just gonna say goodbye to everybody.
You.
My pleasure, man. Thank you. Old Bear, you're gonna hang out for a minute, and let me just say goodbye to these folks. Guys, great show. I'm glad you guys are here in chat, and thanks for showing up. We had for me, it was a record number. We had over 80 in chat, which is a lot for me. That's that's outrageous. So thank you for that. If you guys liked this video, subscribe, hit the like button, and also share. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Good show tonight. So I will see you guys tonight's Thursday. I'm trying to line some stuff up. We'll do it again then, all right? So you guys have a wonderful night. And peace and God bless, guys. Thanks again.